Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. Before I introduce you to tonight's guest, I wanted to talk a little bit about market volatility. Volatility in and of itself is nothing new. Since 1929, the average bull market has lasted just over 6.5 years with an average cumulative return of over 339%. And the average bear market period lasted just under 1.5 years with a cumulative loss of over 38%. Although past performance does not guarantee future results, we believe it's important to keep market volatility and current bear markets into perspective. History has shown us that the odds of achieving a positive return are dramatically increased the longer the time horizon. The graph you see illustrates this from December 31st, 1936 through December 31st, 2019. Had you invested for only one day during this time, you would have only had a 53.28% chance of making a profit. Had you invested for a 12-month period during this time, your probability for a profit goes up to over 77%. Had you invested for a 5-year period during this time, your probability for a profit goes up to over 92%. And finally, had you invested for any 10-year period during this time, your chance for profitability would have jumped to over 97%. Investors tend to see short-term volatility as the enemy. Volatility may lead many investors to move money out of the market and sit on the sidelines for things to calm down. Although this approach may appear to solve one problem, it creates several others. A couple examples are the following. You must make two correct decisions back to back: when to get out of the market and when to get back in. In addition, by going to the sidelines, you may be missing a potential rebound. This is not historically unprecedented, as you can see on this chart. Volatility is not a recent phenomenon. Each year, one can experience a significant market drop, also known as a correction, with the S&P 500 averaging a 14% annual drop, going all the way back to 1980. One common mistake people make is to try to time the market. Investing in the stock market can be volatile, which may tempt some investors to pull out of the market to avoid bad days. It is impossible to predict when the good and bad days will happen. This chart shows the potential effect that pulling out of the stock market could have on a portfolio. An investor does not have to miss many good days to feel the financial impact over time. We believe investors will be rewarded for sticking with their investment plan. On the graph, you can see what would have happened if you invested $10,000 in the S&P 500 from the end of 1979 all the way through December 31st, 2019. The initial $10,000 would have grown to over $867,000. Had you missed just 5 of the best days during this period of time, you would have only grown to $561,000. Had you missed 10 of the best days during this time, you would have only grown a little over $418,000. And finally, if you missed 50 of the best days in that 40-year time span, your initial $10,000 would have only grown to $75,473. As they say, patience is a virtue. I now want to shift gears and introduce you to our speaker this evening, Kylene Bogdan. Kylene is a dietitian for the Cleveland Cavaliers and specializes in a functional nutrition approach where she uses food to reverse chronic illness and improve athletic performance. Kylene previously studied under Dr. Mike Hyman at the Cleveland Clinic Center for Functional Medicine, where she learned to address food sensitivities, gut health, and nutrient deficiencies in order to maximize one's health potential. Kylene has been quoted as an expert in publications such as US News and World Report, O Magazine, Time, Prevention, The Huffington Post, CBS.com, and Women's Health Magazine. Additionally, she has been invited to speak to be a speaker on local, regional, and national level. She is the creator of the functional sports nutrition blog FWDfuel.com. Welcome, Kylene.
Thank you so much, Glenn, for having me this evening. I'm honored to be here. This is a topic I'm very passionate about. And I always say the two things you need to have in life to be happy: your food needs to be in order, and so does your finances. So, without further ado, let's get started. So, fight fatigue with your fork. It does not matter if you are a professional athlete or you are chronically ill with fatigue, reflux, joint pain, you name it. There is so much you can do with food. I take a lot of pride in using food as medicine and creating individualized protocols to help people feel better than they felt in their entire life. So I kind of want to give you a sneak peek into some of my secrets in tonight's presentation. So let's get rolling. So for tonight's agenda, many of us are tired. We're living on Red Bull and coffee and sugar in the afternoon. We'll be addressing that. Why is this happening? What does great nutrition look like? One blog says this, one book says this. It's different for everyone. Famous nutrition myths will be debunked. And also, I'm going to give you a few take-home tips for long-term health success. Graphics are a little wonky here, but if you have any questions about your health or anything in regards to tonight's presentation, just connect with me on Instagram. It's the fastest way to get a hold of me. So, do you ever wish you could take a nap after you eat, where sometimes breakfast feels like Thanksgiving dinner, or you struggle to get through the day without some form of caffeine? You can barely speak English and drive to work if you don't have a cup of coffee. Or you're eating almost nothing all of the day. You have meeting after meeting after meeting, or you're running errands, or whatever it is. All of a sudden it's 3 p.m. and you are ready to binge. You are grabbing the Snickers, you're grabbing the candy, or you just feel like if you don't shove something in your mouth, you may fall over. Right? Welcome to America. This is how we roll. We try to jam as many things in one day with minimal sleep, and then we try to wake up and do it all over again. So of course we're looking for sugar and coffee, right? Sugar and caffeine. So this leads to chronic inflammation. You keep hearing and seeing all this stuff about anti-inflammatory this, anti-inflammatory supplements that, but what does that even mean? Acute inflammation is, oh crap, I hit my leg on the coffee table, I have a huge bruise or a cut or I'm swollen. Chronic inflammation is, man, I don't wake up refreshed, or my joints feel so creaky and I'm only 40 years old, or gosh, I get a headache every afternoon. What's up with that? I have gas. My pants are blown up after every meal. That's not normal. No matter who you are, man, woman, child, it doesn't matter. That's not normal. I don't go to the bathroom every day. That's also not normal. That's chronic inflammation. Your body is trying to fight something low grade that it doesn't like. And all of a sudden, that fatigue, those headaches, that is eventually what manifests into disease. And we can use food to reverse and combat a lot of this. So again, that's kind of what tonight's whole presentation is about. And if there's one take-home point I can leave with you, it's this. If you experience any of these symptoms, or any symptoms similar to this, and they're just not going away, and it's been months, or maybe it's been years, and then the kicker here is that it didn't really respond to medication, or surgery, or procedure, pills, creams, whatever it is that you went for, if it didn't really work, that is how you know we have to look at food. And especially for anyone listening that has some kind of autoimmune condition, whether it's celiac, where you can't tolerate gluten, rheumatoid arthritis, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is a thyroid condition, multiple sclerosis. The list goes on and on and on. Acne, eczema, psoriasis, hives. It's time to look at your nutrition. We have to calm the immune system. And one of the most effective ways to do that is through food. So, and newsflash, this probably doesn't surprise you when you think about it, but as a country, we are more sick, tired, and overweight than ever before in our history. We have more autoimmune disease, like I just mentioned, and infertility than we've ever seen. It's happening left and right, and this is not normal. Our children have more behavior disorders and mental health issues than ever, and even just mental health on the whole, adults, children, everyone in between, it's at an all-time high. And I don't want to blame everything on the food supply, but it does play a huge role. Our food plays more of a role than we give credit for. I kind of grew up in that low fat, no fat era, and everyone was taking Olean. Olean was in their chips, and they were having crazy bowel explosions. And we thought that removing fat would relate to, translate to no fat. I'm going to lose fat myself. I'll have more energy, which we found out, of course, was not true. Even As a high-level nutrition student, I was taught to teach clients, count your calories. Calories in equals calories out. And that's a really old school, inaccurate approach. There's so many more pieces to the puzzle. We have to look at the quality of our food. And it matters so much because, I don't know if the slide's not going here. Okay. You have me up on the screen. It's not. Okay. Okay, so the reason why I can't see it, but that's fine. The reason why it matters so much is because the gut and the brain directly connect through the vagus nerve, and 77% of the immune system lives in the gut. So it's no surprise that every single thing that you eat plays a huge role in the way that you feel. So it makes sense that the quality of our food matters. And actually, if you go to the next slide, okay, great. So the strawberry is telling you that food codes your DNA. Food literally, I mean, every single bite codes your DNA on a molecular level. So it's sending signals saying, yes, do this. No, don't do that. So this is what's crazy. We were always taught in school that your genes are your genes. There's nothing you can do about it. Sorry. But now we know it's not true. So you may have the gene for something very scary, maybe some form of cancer, but it doesn't mean you're going to develop that. And again, food isn't always the guarantee, but if you eat well, there's a chance that you could silence that gene, meaning the gene may never show its face, even though you have the gene, which is pretty incredible. So that's what I mean when I say we can use food as medicine. All right, so let's go to the next slide here. All right, so basically what we're looking at is we go through life, right? We have stress, we have junk food, we take medications. I mean, who hasn't had antibiotics at some point? Some of us are on birth control, some of us are on reflux medication. It is what it is. Environment. If you're like me, you live right by the city, or you built your home next to a battery factory, or who knows, there's so many things in life you can't control, and that damages the DNA. And all of a sudden, the cells kind of break down in the body. So when you hear these words like antioxidants and polyphenols and all this fancy stuff, it's like, well, what does that really mean? Well, it means that you are using food to reverse that damage. Okay. So that should be the slide that we're on right now. Okay. Okay. All right, great. And so you know what? Yep. So that's it. And so then cellular oxidative damage, right, is the damage that happens when you have junk food, you live in the environment, food reverse that. All right, so now how does this actually work? Part two. Fruit, vegetables, nuts, seeds, and herbs. We're using this to reverse the damage. And so that's why if you've ever heard the cruciferous vegetables, meaning broccoli, cauliflower, kale, cabbage, most people just think, well, I guess it's good for my bowels, right? Well, yeah, but the reason why it's so good is because those vegetables actually attach to cholesterol and attach to a lot of the other junk in the body, excess hormones, and you remove it. So that is why when we say things like broccoli can prevent cancer, that's what it's doing. It binds to the gunk, kind of like sticky tack, and then it just excretes out of the body. So next slide here. Okay, key tips to performing your best. So first and foremost, and by the way, this goes for any human in your household, athlete, non-athlete, 2-year-old child, 92-year-old elderly parent. These tips will never ever change. So screenshot it, take a picture with your phone, I don't care. But number one, always eat real food. This will never change. Try not to eat foods with a barcode. I mean, it's going to happen. We lead busy lives. But if 80% of your food could come from real food, you are in the right place. That's how we reverse that damage. Number two, always incorporate plants. So it's not just a salad every now and then. It's please try to aim for 3 colors at every meal. So maybe the green salad has red peppers, and maybe you have a side of purple potatoes. I mean, the possibilities are endless, but 3 colors every meal. That's why smoothies are really easy, or power bowls, because you could just kind of dump the kitchen sink in there, whatever you have, and boom, done. It's easy. So, all right, every meal should contain a couple tablespoons of fat. Now, of course, this differs for each person, right? A petite female is very different than a 300-pound lineman, but give or take, every meal should have some kind of plant-based fat. So maybe you're adding frozen avocado chunks to your smoothie in the morning to make it more like a milkshake. Maybe you're adding peanut butter to your oatmeal. Maybe you're adding olive oil to your salad. So that's what we mean by plant-based fat. And last but not least, this is the hardest, I think, for most people. Try to eat every 3 to 4 hours when you're awake. This is what stabilizes blood sugar. This is what prevents the need to crash at 3 p.m. And while it's not going to completely help you avoid caffeine, it can help cushion the blow a little bit. All right, next slide. Okay, so a lot of you, I know, if you're anything like me, it's like bam, 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 out the door, I'm rushing, gotta go. So most of us don't have time to cook an elaborate breakfast. So what does that look like? A really good quality smoothie, but not just, fruit juice and a bunch of, I don't know, frozen ice and maybe some yogurt. I know that tastes good, but it's doing nothing for your health. So I'll give you an example in a second, but just look at this template. So this is what we're going for. This is how you take a balanced meal and you put it in drinkable form. You put it into a smoothie. So it's 15 to 20 grams of protein, 8 to 12 ounces of liquid, a tablespoon of fat again. Remember, that could be nut butter, that could be coconut oil, that could be whatever you have in the house. Frozen fruit. But notice I have 3/4 cup. It's not 3 pieces of fruit. You don't have to add an anti-inflammatory spice, but it would be ideal if you had ginger or turmeric or cinnamon on hand. Just adds a little anti-inflammatory punch. And if you're up for it, which I hope you are, handful of dark leafy greens. And if greens scare you and vegetables make you dry heave, frozen veggies, I promise, will be much more tolerable. Okay, so if you go to the next slide, here's an actual example. Thank you. Yes, so an example would be 20 grams of collagen peptides, 8 to 10 ounces of unsweetened almond milk, 1 tablespoon of organic peanut butter, easy, most people have that on hand, frozen banana, teaspoons of cinnamon, and a handful of frozen spinach. I promise this tastes good. Just try it. And even a few sips will be better than nothing. And of course, you can get creative. Go ahead, go ahead. Okay. Okay. And then next, you should be looking at a plate full of food. Okay. All right. So now what happens when it's not a smoothie? What does it look like when it's lunchtime or dinner time? In a dream situation, doesn't matter if you're at home, if you're out and about entertaining clients, this is the ratio we're going for. It's a big palmful of lean protein. Half the plate is vegetables, and about a fourth, about a handful. I mean, it's different for each person, of course, again, but roughly a half to 3/4 cup of cooked starch. So it doesn't matter where you go, whether it's Chipotle or again, you're making something at home. Scoop out or request double the vegetables. Have a palmful of protein, just eyeball it. And then the starch can be there. There's nothing wrong with rice or quinoa or potatoes or whatever you enjoy, but it shouldn't be the focal point of the meal. You shouldn't be that person where it's a big bowl of pasta and no vegetables and maybe, I don't know, 2 bites of protein. That will leave you feeling tired, sluggish. It may hurt your joints, and you just might find that it's difficult to achieve the ratio of body fat and lean muscle that you would like. All right, so next slide, is it premium fuel? Okay, all right, so this would be a dream situation. This is very easy to find, affordable, simple food. This isn't elaborate 3-hour gourmet meals. If you'd like to do that, that's great. I fully support you, but again, this might be something you want to reference. And by the way, anything you like on here that you want a picture of or you want recipes, smoothie ideas, Glenn has all the goods. I gave him my showcase of favorite recipes, my famous cookie dough energy bites that I use with the calves. Glenn has the recipe, so just email him if you'd like any of that, by the way, if any of this goes a little too fast. So breakfast could be a veggie omelet, put a little scoop of guacamole on there. There's your fat to balance. Side of fresh fruit, or again, the smoothie that we mentioned. If you'd like to eat a snack, that's great. You certainly don't have to, but if you're the kind of person working a 12 to 14-hour workday sometimes, you do need to space out the snacks in between the meals. We don't want you to end up so ravenous that you binge at the next meal. So for your snack, maybe a good idea would be a handful of protein energy bites. The cookie dough bites I mentioned are awesome. You make them on Sunday, you eat them throughout the week, or even just as simple as a handful of nuts will do the job. Grilled chicken, sweet potato, salad with extra virgin olive oil as your balancing fat. Again, easy, pretty much effortless. Afternoon snack could be strawberries dipped in almond butter. A lot of my clients, we will do a little scoop of almond butter, and they'll smash the strawberries so there's fresh juice in the almond butter, and they literally eat it like a spoon with kind of like pudding. I know it sounds so weird, but it tastes great, keeps you energized, and it keeps you out of the candy jar. And last but not least, maybe dinner is fresh fish, maybe it's wild-caught salmon, brown rice, green veggies, done. Those are mostly anti-inflammatory foods, easy to find anywhere, and again, it just doesn't have to be fancy. But I think sometimes we might start this way. Breakfast might be the veggie omelet, but then it's like, surprise, there was a jar of chocolate at the desk, and I went crazy. So, and then 3 energy drinks later, here we are. Okay. Next slide. You got it. Okay. So, this is different than my cookie dough energy bites. This is a little bit of a different. This is more for those who are really active. They need a higher carbohydrate energy bite. This works wonders if anyone has kids at home that always cry for dessert, but you don't really want to give them full blown dessert. This is like surprise professional athlete snack, good for your taste buds, good for your immune system, and it tastes sweet without any garbage in the ingredients. So if you look at this, it is so simple. You just blend everything together, roll them in balls about an inch high, inch wide, put them in your fridge. Done. Okay. So next we should have the perfect. Okay, we're aligned. So all right, so we have fresh ginger being number one. Ginger is unbelievable for inflammation, for digestion, for nausea. For anyone with gut issues should try to make ginger a little bit of a routine. I know the bite is strong. You either love it or you hate it. But you could start by just buying fresh ginger and just cutting an inch of it, just an inch into tiny slivers. Just saute it in your stir fry or just blend it into your smoothie. Start there and just kind of work your way up. Even just a little hunk of ginger a few times a week could have unbelievable benefits. The same goes for turmeric in the middle. Kind of a funky looking, almost looks like a creature. I mean, it's not, it's a spice, right? But it is unbelievable in terms of human health. There are over 3,000 published studies on turmeric from everything from headaches to cancer to joint pain to memory. The newer studies are showing improved memory if the turmeric is very good quality. And the curcumin, the powerful spice inside the turmeric, is of a high concentration. So if there's one thing you incorporate into your routine daily, forever, until you die, it would probably be turmeric. Top right, we have tart cherries. This is huge in the athletic community. Tons of awesome research for recovery. The tart cherries have powerful antioxidants that help reverse damage at the cellular level. So if you're someone that feels like you're sore all the time, you can take either the frozen tart cherries themselves and blend them into your smoothies or your oatmeal, or you can take like the concentrated tart cherry juice, just a little bit, an ounce or two, and then you could mix that into your cooking. A lot of the professional chefs I work with, they'll make sauce out of the tart cherries and they'll put it on their chicken. They'll have our athletes put it on the vegetables, all kinds of creative ways you can kind of play around with it. Cinnamon is easy because most people know what it is, most people know how to use it, but cinnamon is actually very anti-inflammatory. It tastes good to most people, and it's actually awesome at controlling blood sugar. So if I have any diabetics out there, pre-diabetics, I want sugar, or I'm sorry, I want cinnamon to replace sugar, and I want it to become one of your new best friends. Last but not least, pineapple, fan favorite. Good time of year right now. You could grill it and have it for dessert. But pineapple contains an enzyme called bromelain that's very anti-inflammatory, but it actually helps us digest our food. That's why sometimes if you're shopping for a digestive enzyme, you'll see bromelain in the ingredients. That was extracted from pineapple. It really helps you digest your food, fights inflammation. So these are my top 5 picks. Of course, there's plenty more to choose from, but these are, I think, my number one, two, three, four, five. Okay, perfect. So now, how do we bring this all together? How do we make this real life without spending $1 million and buying weird ingredients that we're probably never actually going to touch? So, tip one: dip your veggies in guac. And ideally, you'd find a guac or you'd make a guac that has double the veggies, double the tomatoes, onion, garlic. Remember, the more color, the better. A lot of people go for French onion dip or all kinds of things, but just try the guac with your veggies. Even if it's half chips or half crackers and half veggies dipped in the guac, you're still making progress. Adding fresh or frozen berries to your oatmeal. A lot of people use the fresh veggies, which is frozen vegetables, which is frozen vegetables, frozen fruit, which is fine. Yes, I do have people that add vegetables to their oatmeal. Kind of weird, but I actually have some people who prefer the savory version, so they'll do olive oil and they'll do vegetables in the oatmeal. But not my thing. If it's yours, great. But I think frozen berries are best in the oatmeal versus the fresh because the juice from the frozen kind of bleeds out a little bit more. It makes your oatmeal pretty and it tastes better. The flavor is a little more rich. So I've said this, but using olive oil as the base of your salad dressing, great. Okay. Blending frozen cherries with full fat canned coconut milk, great. It actually turns into an ice cream. So you're going in the dry aisle of the grocery store. It's not actually the liquid coconut milk. It's the dry canned. Okay. So it's kind of a thick cream. You're putting that in the blender with frozen cherries. Eat it immediately. It's kind of like putting an ice cream had a baby. It's very good. Okay, you can blend frozen pineapple with a hint of ginger and coconut water in little containers. Buy them off Amazon for what, $5, $10, and you can make anti-inflammatory popsicles in the summer. We already talked about it, but sauteing chopped turmeric in your stir fry is a really nice way to kind of start off because it's a different taste if you're not used to it. You can make it tiny and just kind of put it all together. Sneaking dark leafy greens into your soups, smoothies, and sauces, especially pesto. If any of you make pesto, you know that basil is the main ingredient. You could add a little bit of spinach. I promise no one's going to know. And then smoothie in the morning. Most people usually use, I don't know, water or milk of some sort. I hope you don't use juice because the sugar content is so high, but green tea is a really, really great anti-inflammatory, very powerful cancer-fighting beverage that doesn't have any added sugar. So you could use that as the base of more of a fruity smoothie in the morning, and it's actually great. Okay. Next slide should be a cheat sheet of fight inflammation and promote inflammation. Okay, beautiful. So this is another nice little cheat sheet you can kind of keep in your pocket, screenshot it, whatever you need to do. Again, this isn't the end all be all list, but this is by far the 10 best and the 10 worst. If you can gravitate towards most of those items on the left, as well as avoiding those on the right, I promise you, you will be a different human being in 30 days if you can stay consistent. It's just hard because our society promotes low fat, low sugar, higher fiber, low calorie, which is fine sometimes. But if the ingredients are all garbage, who cares how high the protein is and how low the sugar is? If there's food dye and artificial sweeteners that are ripping apart your gut, of course you're going to be tired. Of course you're going to have gas and headaches and your sleep will not be refreshing. So lean more towards the right, try to lay off the left. Lean more towards the left, and you want less of the right. Okay. Next slide is anti-inflammatory swaps. Okay. So, and you might think, oh my gosh, my beloved crackers, my ranch dressing. I promise you now in 2020, there is an option for everything. And I do not work for any of these brands. I don't receive any compensation. It's what's in my home. So there are new companies now, a little bit newer. Primal Kitchen is awesome for anything related to condiments, whether it's your ketchup, your mayo, your salad dressing. Anything from that company is fair game because they don't use garbage ingredients. If you're a snacky munchy kind of person, great. Check out the company Simple Mills. They're one of the absolute best on the market. Again, anything from them. Their cupcake mixes, their pancake mixes, their crackers. There's no junk food, no junk ingredients in anything they produce. Okay. Then we have, for more of my chip lovers, Siete is a family that creates tortillas and just so many good things, chips made from real food ingredients. They're using cassava flour or they're using almond flour instead of a lot of the kind of, fake ingredients that most of our popular products are made from. And last but not least, there are so many granola bars and protein bars on the market. I would strongly suggest using a brand like Go Macro. And there's plenty of other brands. RX bars are wonderful too, but it's made from ingredients like eggs and nuts and dates, foods and nutrients that your body was meant to digest. So if you put in junk, you're going to feel like junk. Okay. Next slide. All right. So here are top 10 ways to fight disease and fatigue for good. So this is the myths I mentioned in the beginning. Here we are reversing very popular myths. So number one being eat real food. And not to say there's anything wrong with calorie counting or with counting your points. I mean, I understand at surface level that's a very good thing. It will probably help you lose weight round one. But if you're someone that feels like you're yo-yoing, whether it's your weight is yo-yoing, or any of your symptoms, your skin conditions, your eczema is yo-yoing, that means the immune system is teetering and it needs real food. We have to program the DNA to do its job. So if you're not cooking from scratch and you don't have time to do that, okay. But promise me now that you're going to focus on companies or your snack companies that use real food. It can be done. And sometimes it's not as readily available, but I promise it's out there if you hunt. And again, message Glenn for any of my tips and tricks and handouts and message me directly and I will help guide you to whatever you need. It's easier than you think. So number two is stop obsessing over calories. Yes, of course, if your desired needs are around 2,000 calories, good things probably aren't going to happen if you sit there with a pile of cake and you eat 3,500 calories every day. Okay, but that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if you eat real food, your body doesn't really worry about all the little nuances. That 2,000 calories that you calculated for yourself doesn't have to be eaten perfectly. It's just not how it works because protein digests so differently than fat, which digests so differently than carbohydrate. and even sugar versus alcohol. And here's what's interesting too, just a fun tidbit here for all of us. Sometimes the inability to lose weight and feel good is because you're drinking so much caffeine during the day. Coming from a former caffeine addict, trust me, I get it. Sometimes it's how you survive, but caffeine raises cortisol. And cortisol is a stress hormone. It's fight or flight. It says, I'm in danger. I'm going to store fat around the midsection to keep me alive. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because your calories might be perfect and you might be eating pretty decent food. But if you're living on caffeine to get through the day and you still feel like your sleep is funky, your weight is funky, you're just, your pants barely button, that is coming from excess caffeine intake sometimes. So it's worth looking at calories, worth looking at caffeine intake. Okay. All right. Number 3, we should say avoid eating late. Okay, great. So, all right. So avoid eating late. Easier said than done for some of us who have crazy work schedules. But in a dream world, you would try to eat within, an 8 to 10 hour window when you're awake. But then you would leave a 2 to 3 hour gap between your last bite of food and bed. And even if it's a 1 hour gap, that's better than nothing. But your body has to rest and digest. It struggles to do both at the same time. We eat, we digest, give it time to do the job, stomach seals off, then we sleep. You might find that you're restless, or you wake up in the night to go to the bathroom, or your dreams are terrible. Sometimes it's because your body's still trying to digest. And we want your body to run like a well-oiled machine. We want metabolism to be where it should be, humming beautifully. And that doesn't happen if you're constantly eating late. It's going to happen from time to time, but don't make it your go-to every time. And you might find too that you don't want to eat breakfast the next day if you're eating so much food so late. So then it starts this weird cycle of like, I skip breakfast, but then I'm ravenous mid-afternoon. So don't forget to leave that gap. And if any of you have a watch or anything that you can use to track your sleep, track it now with the way that you're eating late. If you are eating late, track it with your caffeine intake. Don't change a thing. Just track it for a week. Look at your deep REM sleep. See how many times you wake up, and then change it. Leave a 2-hour gap the next week from your last bite of food and the time you're headed to the pillow, and try to limit the caffeine, or if you can, wean a little bit and go without it for 3 or 4 days. Completely without it for 3 or 4 days, and track your sleep patterns again. I bet you my bottom dollar that you will see improvement. It's not going to be fun. It's going to be kind of terrible the first few days, but it'll be worth it in the long run. 2 weeks in, you'll feel so much better. So, okay. We should now be on shovel strategically. Okay, all right. So snacking can be a great thing. I mean, this is getting really technical, but actually, from a genetic standpoint, some of us really do benefit from snacking. Some of us really do not. I would just tell you, listen to your body. If you're someone that feels well oiled, well fueled, energetic with snacks, snack. If you're someone that you feel like it kind of weighs you down, makes you even hungrier, I probably wouldn't snack, because why spend all the money to test your DNA unless you really want to? But when you do snack, though, it shouldn't just be a piece of fruit by itself. It shouldn't just be a few bites of candy, or just a glass of juice, or Red Bull or whatever. Focus on protein and fat when you're eating your snack. The best balance needs to be good quality protein and fat, whether it's nuts or a nut butter. You can actually get little packets now. You just squeeze them in your mouth and you go. Doesn't have to be the big jar of peanut butter or cashew butter. Overnight oats are so easy. There's a recipe on my blog. You literally dump the liquid and the fruit, or whatever you'd like, the seeds, in the oats the night before. You wake up and there's breakfast, or there's a snack. And just make sure that you stay hydrated, because many times thirst can be mistaken for hunger. You may be grazing all day long when really it's your body saying, please hydrate me, I'm struggling. And again, for the cookie dough bites, message Glenn if you would like those. So, okay. Next, we have incorporating fat with every meal. So we talked about this a little bit in the beginning, but I think sometimes it's unclear what fat really means, why it's beneficial. So because fat digests so slowly, it keeps you alert. It's not this huge spike and then crash in energy. And steady blood sugar means better memory, better focus. You can more easily sit through meetings. And if you are trying to lose weight, you can do that without starving yourself and calorie counting if you are eating enough fat. In fact, if any of you feel like you're starving like all day, no matter what you eat, you feel like you're starving all day, more times than not, it's because you don't have the right amount of fat in your diet. Or even worse, I have a lot of individuals, of course, they're very active, but they wake up in the night hungry. That often comes from inadequate intake of fat during the day. So really be conscious about this going forward. Slice an avocado, just eat it with sea salt. Doesn't have to be anything intricate. We talked about olive oil, but what about olives? If you like olives, it's one of the best snacks you can have. There's this company called Loves, these cute little packets of flavored olives that just throw in your purse, throw in your work bag, get out the door. Coconut in any form. Yes, there's a lot of controversy about coconut, but there's too many other factors. Your genetics play a big role. The rest of your diet plays a big role. If you're eating a lot of vegetables and you're eating a lot of good quality food, sprinkling coconut is a great thing. But if you're living on fast food and junk food and a lot of other things that you probably shouldn't be ingesting, then we don't want to have coconut at every meal like some of these bloggers are telling you to do. And a lot of people don't know this. Even my professional athletes who are very much into their food, they don't realize that if you're sick of peanut butter, if you can't tolerate peanut butter, you can have almond butter. You can have cashew butter, pecan butter, walnut butter, sunflower seed butter. For those who can't tolerate nuts, there's pumpkin seed butter, there's sesame seed butter, there's sunflower seed butter. It's literally just the nuts and seeds ground up with a little bit of oil. You could dip your apples in it. You could just take a spoonful of it, put a little bit of cinnamon, boom, done. So, and of course, nuts and seeds, that's the obvious. Most people know that. But sometimes the nut butters can help you so you're not bored to tears and you're satisfied. All right, number 6. All right, do not fear the supplementation. So, in a dream world, and what I was taught in school is that food is the best, it's the first line of defense. You don't need anything else, no supplements as long as your diet is clean. And ideally, that would be the dream situation, but it's just not real life. There's so much we go through with stress and just balancing family and exercise and everything in between. And you remember I said some of us are living in a less than ideal work environment. Maybe it's an old office building with mold. Maybe there's lead paint. I mean, it's just, I've seen so many things over the years. But long story short, you combine all of this, the junk food, the stress, the environment, and it plows through your vitamin and mineral stores. Absolutely plows. Not to mention, our soil isn't the same quality that it was 60 years ago. So our parents and grandparents didn't have to eat organic because it just was. But we've changed so much and we've added so many chemicals that sometimes, more times than not actually, you would benefit from basic supplementation in addition to really good quality food. So basic multivitamin with vitamin D is really important, very beneficial. Probably not as bad for those in the south as us in the north with less sunlight, but still a good thing nonetheless. 1,000 to 2,000 milligrams of fish oil daily. That is helping with inflammation, brain health, heart health. But there's such thing as junk fish oil and there's such thing as really good quality fish oil. So you should never have fish oil that smells funky. If that's the case, nope, you got to find a new brand. Go professional grade. I will help you with that. Truly, just message me. I will help you find the right stuff. For those of you who don't sleep well and maybe have bowel issues, consider taking 400 milligrams of magnesium citrate 1 hour before bed. This helps with bowel movements. It helps with deeper rest. If any of you have restless leg syndrome, this works really, really well. And please understand that nutrient deficiencies are one of the biggest culprits for fatigue and exacerbation of disease. That means sometimes the reason why someone has terrifying symptoms or they can barely get out of bed, it's as simple as correcting the deficiency. And it's hard because it's not something a lot of doctors jump to. We tend to hand out prescriptions when really we should look at food and supplements as a first line of defense. Then we jump to the medications. Okay? So try to control blood sugar. Ideally, you're going to eat every 3 to 4 hours when you're awake. This helps keep energy stable, curbs extreme sugar cravings, absolutely, and prevents overeating. And I promise you, this is even worse for those working from home. Some of you may have gotten into a really good routine and maybe it's easier for you, but I think for a lot of us, it threw us off track and we want to get back on track before it's too late. So my clients, I will often tell them to put little reminders in their phone so it's going off every 3 to 4 hours because sometimes you just get caught up in a project and you forget. Kids are running around screaming, whatever it is, just sticky notes, post-it notes up, put reminders in your phone, whatever it takes, but try to eat every 3 to 4 hours when you're awake. And know that sometimes your body has to get into a routine. You might think, ugh, breakfast makes me gag. Thinking about eating in the morning, I would rather die. But even if it's just 2 bites, get used to it. Your body will adjust. Your circadian rhythm will kind of recirculate, especially if you have an earlier bedtime. You will find that the eating pattern eventually falls into place. And all of a sudden, the extreme need to eat sweets or caffeine just kind of goes by the wayside without you doing anything dramatic. Okay? And now we're looking at number 8, avoid sugar-free or diet items. So this one hurts a little bit because there's still so many products on the market that are low sugar, no sugar. It's just you have to be careful because there are so many artificial sweeteners out there. Aspartame, Splenda, which is sucralose on a label. You're still finding it in popsicles, in sports drinks, in yogurt, I've seen it in everything. Protein powders. It should not be there. I know it looks incredibly appealing because you think, oh man, low sugar, low calorie. This is awesome. This is what I want. But think about what it's doing long term to your gut and your brain. The microbiota is this colony of fancy bacteria in the gut. And when that colony is thrown off, mostly from stress and medications and junk food, all of a sudden you don't feel great. And then those artificial sweeteners kind of jump on top of that. They piggyback it and they further rip apart the gut. And remember, the gut and the brain connect. So if the gut's a mess, the brain will be a mess, vice versa. They're constantly signaling. And I actually have so many clients who go through life, chronic headaches, frequent urination. They're only 30 years old and they're going to the bathroom all the time and they're like, what is this? My doctor said I don't have prostate problems. Those are really common side effects of artificial sweeteners. Not to mention the weird aftertaste in your mouth, but that's the least offensive of everything. So please don't be fooled. Please read the label. There are some foods that will say, naturally sugar-free. Well, that's great. Maybe it's a cup of green tea. There shouldn't be sugar in your green tea. But if you see something like a beautiful red colored beverage that says sugar-free, watch out. It's not something that's helping you in the long run. And if you just love that super sweet taste, try to cut it with carbonated water. So there's LaCroix, and there's a lot of other companies out there like that. Try to cut it till your ratio is down to where you're just having a few tablespoons of that sugar-free beverage until you can kind of go completely. People always say to me, well, would you tell someone to drink Coke or Diet Coke? Of course I'm going to tell you neither, but honestly, in a situation, I would tell you to drink the regular Coke, not regularly, not all the time, every now and then as a treat. Or maybe you go for Pepsi or a brand that they're starting to make now with real sugar and not high fructose corn syrup. High fructose corn syrup is also not good. It can damage the liver long term. But just remember, eat real food, eat real sugar if you're going to eat it. And if you do have a sweet tooth and you like to bake things, or you sweeten anything, whether it's your oatmeal or your smoothie or your yogurt even, add honey and maple. Just add the real thing, and I promise you it's great long term. So number 9, we're looking at read like a pro. All right, don't be scammed. When you look at this, you think, oh my gosh, this is great. The carbohydrate's moderate, fat is fairly low, protein is pretty decent, 20 grams is great. Like, look at this vitamin and mineral panel. This is incredible. But look at the ingredient list. What is half of that stuff? If you can't find it in your grandmother's kitchen, please don't ingest it. A lot of this stuff you don't recognize, and guess what? If your brain doesn't recognize it, your body isn't going to recognize it either. So from now on, here on out, start to look at the ingredient list before you focus on the grams of fat, the protein, the sugar. And if it looks a little bit strange, put it back, find a different brand. Like I said before, there are brands now that support what we're trying to do here. And the best part about all of this is when you find the brands you like, when you find the foods that don't contain contaminants or chemicals, you're not on a diet anymore. It's just a way of living. You never have to go back or yo-yo because it's just who you are and what you do. So just think about that going forward. And for those with younger kids at home, this is what I want you to teach your children. I don't want your kids to be like me, where at the sporting events, I had a sports drink in one hand, I had a protein bar and fruit snacks in the other, full of fake dyes and fake sweeteners. It's just, you're setting the standard now so that they can carry it with them for life. Number 10 here. Last but not least, be in tune with your body. Perfect. Okay, good. So be in tune with your body. You should never feel like junk day in and day out. I don't care if you're 50 years old. I don't care if you're 60 years old. Guess what? I don't care if you're 70 years old. If you have trouble with word finding, if you have trouble with memory, with your joints, with brain fog, with energy, with really poor recovery after workout, that's never normal, at least not when it's chronic. Sure, we're going to have days where we're overly stressed, we don't sleep well, we went to a birthday party and ate junk. Okay, that's life, right? You have to enjoy yourself. But you shouldn't feel that way day in and day out. And that's how we know that there's time for a change. It's never too late. I promise you, there are people that come into my office with extremely serious, debilitating issues. They've seen 12 doctors. They're on 11 prescriptions, 9 prescriptions. They feel like garbage. They can't get out of bed. And sometimes all we had to do was a little bit of stool testing, a little bit of gut testing. We correct the deficiencies. We put real food back in their body. And sometimes it's as quick as 10 days that they are fully functioning again. And again, these are people that have suffered for years. So again, it doesn't matter if you are the best athlete in this country or you are so ill that you feel like you just can't get out of bed anymore. There is something that can be done with food. And keep in mind too that a food journal is fine, but a food and symptom journal is what you really, really want. So you're writing down, I ate this, and this happened. I ate this, I felt great. Because the first line of defense is you. I want you to try to figure out your own patterns. Sometimes it can save you thousands of dollars and a lot of heartache. But if you can't figure out your own patterns, then I want you to take that food and symptom journal to someone like me. We can review it, and then we put the pieces together and figure out where to go. Because no two humans are alike. We are so biologically unique. So how could you ever tell someone to follow the same diet? Not everyone should be paleo. Not everyone should be keto or vegan. It's nice to kind of take the best principles from those plans and implement them strategically. But I shouldn't eat the way that you do, and you shouldn't eat the way your best friend does. All right, so be in tune with your body. It's not aging. It's not necessarily overtraining. It's not I work too hard. It's the immune system bucket needs to be lightened, and we're going to do that with food. So in summary here, all right, I really want you to focus on eating real food. I would love for you to start your morning with fat and protein, always and forever. I don't care if you're vegan. I don't care if you love bacon. Please don't be the person that has sugary cereal and skim milk. You might as well eat 10 donuts for breakfast. Focus on eating real food, quality fat and protein. Always start your day that way. Then that kind of starts the metabolism, right? It's breakfast because we're breaking the fast. Eat every 3 to 4 hours when you are awake to control blood sugar, to control energy. Focus on ingredients, not labels. And that's never going to change. It isn't a fad. It's the way that humans should work. Always listen to your body. Take extensive notes, even if it's just for 2 weeks of your life. It's worth it. Consider basic supplementation. Even if it's just a multivitamin with D and you just start there. And we worry about the turmeric and the omegas and the magnesium later, that's fine. But just start somewhere. Fill in those loopholes because it's too hard to be perfect. And let your body rest and digest at night. We need to eat, digest, and then our body needs to go down to rest. So I appreciate your time this evening. And now, okay, just remember, you are only as good as your last meal. Okay, and then thank you so much. Got it. Follow me on Instagram. Connect with me on Instagram. Please message Greg if you want any of my goods. He has everything, the smoothies, the traveling snack sheet on the go, my cookie dough energy bites, and he even has a paleo, a really healthy cookie skillet for anyone that loves dessert but doesn't want to have junk ingredients. So thank you again for your patience tonight. I'm so sorry for the technical difficulties. I enjoyed myself, and I'd love to hand it back over to Greg. Glenn, oh my gosh, Glenn.
No problem. No problem. Thanks, Connie.
Long day.
Thank you for all that great information. Having great information, though, really doesn't do anything unless you act upon it and execute it. So hopefully you do. We will be uploading a recording of this event in the next few days on the YouTube channel and Facebook. And of course, you're welcome to share it. We also have a newsletter, which we send out on a monthly basis, which if you are not receiving it and wish to do so, please let us know. With everything that's happening, we understand that your friends and family may have questions or just want a second opinion of what they're doing. We are always happy to speak with them without cost or obligation, whether they are clients or not. On behalf of my team and me, I would like to thank you for joining us this evening. I want to thank our team who continues to do an outstanding job, and thank our guest this evening, Kylene. I've been a financial advisor since 2004, and we've weathered many storms by keeping our focus on the well-being of our clients, our team, and our community. There remains a lot of uncertainty, and yet that's always been the case. And as we go through this epidemic, we want you to know that we're here for you, and we appreciate the opportunity to share your journey with you. So thank you for joining us. Please stay healthy, stay safe, and have a good evening.